Morocco doesn't sit on a map. It exists between worlds. A country where meteorites are found in the desert almost every day. Where goats climb trees to reach fruit no other animal can. Where behind cedar gates untouched for 8 centuries, life still moves to the rhythm of the Middle Ages. And where the world's oldest university has been teaching continuously for over 1,000 years. Morocco sits at the crossroads of everything: Africa and Europe, the Atlantic and the Mediterranean, the ancient and the modern. It belongs to no single world and draws from all of them. 3 continents have left their mark here. Berber, Arab, African, and European cultures collided over centuries, and instead of erasing each other, they merged into something entirely unique. Morocco doesn't reveal itself easily. You have to earn it, street by street, city by city, dune by dune. But once it lets you in, it never fully lets go. The desert arrives without warning. One moment you're driving through scattered palms and crumbling kasbahs. The next, the road ends and sand takes over. Dunes roll toward the horizon in waves, stretching farther than the eye can follow. Merzouga sits at the edge of this emptiness, a small town of mud brick buildings pressed against Erg Chebi. It's the last stop before the desert, the place where paved roads give way to sand tracks and camels replace cars. Erg Chebi is Morocco's most accessible stretch of Sahara, but accessibility doesn't diminish its scale. The dunes here climb over 500 feet, some of the tallest in North Africa. Their ridges shift constantly, reshaped by wind that never stops blowing. At dawn, the dunes catch fire. The first light turns them orange, then red, then gold as the sun climbs higher. The colors last maybe 20 minutes before heat flattens everything into white light and shadow. Most visitors ride camels into the dunes, following routes used by caravans for centuries. The animals move slowly, swaying side to side in a rhythm that takes getting used to. It's uncomfortable at first, but there's no faster way to cross deep sand. Climbing a dune on foot is harder than it looks. The sand collapses under every step, sliding you backward as you push forward. Your legs burn, your lungs work overtime in the dry air. But the view from the top makes it worth it. Sand in every direction, dunes stacked behind dunes, fading into heat, shimmer, and distance. At night, camps scattered across Erg Chebi come alive. Fires flicker against the darkness, Drums play rhythms passed down through generations, and tea is poured in rounds that can last for hours. Above it all, stars emerge in numbers that make you forget what city skies look like. The Milky Way is visible to the naked eye. Farther west, the desert changes character. Erg Chigaga lies near Zagora, deeper into the Sahara and much harder to reach. Unlike Erg Chebi, where paved roads bring you close, getting to Erg Chigaga requires commitment. The journey takes hours across rocky desert, dry riverbeds, and landscapes that look like another planet. The dunes here are different. They roll endlessly, stretching over 30 miles in waves that seem to have no beginning or end. There are fewer people, fewer camps, fewer tracks in the sand. This is wilderness in its purest form. Travelers who make it this far often stay for days, camping under skies so clear the stars feel close enough to touch. The silence is complete. No engines in the distance, no planes overhead, no hum of civilization. Just wind moving across sand, or voices around a fire at night. The isolation changes people. Out here, time works differently. Days blend into each other. You stop checking your watch and start tracking the sun's path across the sky and the stars at night. Conversations happen slowly, over tea that gets poured and repoured until the pot runs dry. Getting here isn't easy. The journey demands effort, the heat tests you, and the emptiness forces you to sit with yourself. But that's exactly why people come. The desert removes everything unnecessary and leaves only what actually matters. The desert isn't as lifeless as it seems. Between the dunes, life exists. Rissani sits on the edge of the sand, a town that once served as the final stop for caravans crossing the Sahara. Traders would rest here, stock up on supplies, and prepare for the journey ahead. That history still echoes through the streets. 3 days a week, the town's market comes alive. It's one of the largest in southern Morocco, sprawling across dusty squares filled with everything from dates and spices to livestock and handmade silver. The air smells like cumin, coriander, and dust. Vendors shout prices, buyers haggle, and life buzzes all around. Visit a Berber home here, and you'll understand how people survive in a place this harsh. Water is precious. Every well is protected, every drop counted, yet guests are always welcome. Strangers are offered mint tea and tagine, and sent off with blessings. These settlements have existed for centuries, built by people who know the desert inside out. They can tell when storms are coming by watching the sky. They navigate by stars and signs that outsiders would never notice. they've turned one of the harshest environments on Earth into home. The Sahara teaches patience and resilience. It doesn't forgive mistakes, but it rewards those who respect it. And once you've spent time here, something stays with you. Long after you leave, you'll think about the silence, the sand, the way light moved across the dunes at dawn. The desert doesn't let go easily. Past the desert, the landscape shifts to mountains and stone. The Dade's Gorge cuts deep into the high Atlas, a massive canyon with walls that climb over 500 meters in places. The rock layers are striped like pages in a book, each one telling the story of millions of years when this region sat at the bottom of an ancient sea. The river at the bottom looks different depending on when you visit. Most of the year, it's shallow and calm, barely moving between the rocks. But when spring melt comes down from the mountains, or heavy rains hit, the same river turns into a powerful force, moving boulders and carving new paths through the canyon. Driving through here isn't easy. The road climbs in steep switchbacks, one sharp turn after another. Locals call it the teeth of the comb because of how tightly the curves are packed together. From any lookout point, you can see the road snaking up the cliff in zigzags. Rock formations line the canyon, weathered into unusual shapes. One cluster, known as the Monkey Fingers, rises from the valley floor like a group of stone pillars. Some people say they look like fingers pointing upward. Others see melted candles frozen in place. Beyond the gorge, the landscape changes. Terraced fields appear, covered in pink during spring. This is the Valley of Roses, where thousands of Damascus rose bushes bloom every May. Villages collect the petals by hand during a festival that brings the whole region together. The flowers are pressed and distilled into rose water and oil, products Morocco has been making for generations. Rugged cliffs and delicate flowers, the valley holds both. At the edge of the Atlas Mountains, where stone gives way to sand, sits Ouarzazate. For centuries, this was the threshold to the Sahara, a place where caravans gathered before disappearing into the dunes. The city grew around that crossroads, built from the same red earth that surrounds it. Today, Ouarzazate is known as the Hollywood of Africa. The light here is unique, brighter and clearer than anywhere else. The landscapes look cinematic, even without a camera. Films like Lawrence of Arabia and Gladiator were shot in the desert nearby. Studios still operate on the outskirts, their sets visible from the road. But the real attraction sits just beyond the city. Ait Ben Haddou rises from the hillside like something out of another century. It's a ksar, a fortified village built entirely from mud brick and clay. From a distance, the whole structure glows red-brown in the sun, its towers and walls blending into the landscape as if they grew from the earth itself. The Kisar was rebuilt in the 17th century, though settlements have stood on this spot for much longer. It became a vital stop on trade routes linking Morocco to empires beyond the Sahara. Caravans carrying salt, gold, ivory, and spices would rest here before crossing the mountains or pushing deeper into the desert. Inside, narrow alleyways wind between tightly packed houses. Most families have moved to the newer village across the river, but a handful still live within the old walls. Walking here feels like stepping several centuries back. Clay walls rise on both sides, worn smooth by centuries of wind and rain. Wooden doors hang crooked in their frames. Sunlight filters through gaps in the roofs. From the highest point, the view spreads out below. The Unila River cutting through the valley, dry for most of the year, but flowing strong when the rains come. Beyond it, barren hills stretch toward the horizon. Ait Ben Haddou has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1987, recognized not just for its architecture, but for its historical significance. It's a reminder of how people built with what they had, creating structures that have lasted for centuries in one of the harshest climates on Earth. The mud walls won't last forever. Rain and wind wear them down a little more each year, but for now, they still stand. Marrakesh catches you off guard. The noise, the crowds, the colors bleeding into each other. It's chaos that somehow functions, a city that runs on its own rhythm. The Medina is the heart of it all. Step through Bab Agnaou or any of the old gates, and you enter a maze that has barely changed in centuries. No cars can fit through these alleys, just foot traffic and the occasional donkey cart piled high with goods. The souks spread in every direction, narrow lanes packed with stalls selling everything, leather bags hanging from hooks, carpets stacked to the ceiling, mountains of spices glowing red and yellow and orange. The smell shifts every few steps. Mint, cumin, fresh bread, tanned leather, incense burning in a corner shop. Craftsmen work in open stalls, hammering copper, carving wood, weaving fabric on looms that look older than the buildings themselves. The sound never stops. Hammers striking metal, vendors shouting prices, crowds pushing through narrow passages. At the center of the Medina sits Jama' El Fna, a square that transforms throughout the day. In the morning, it's relatively calm. Vendors set up their carts. A few tourists wander through. But as the sun drops, the square comes alive. Storytellers gather small crowds. Musicians play drums and stringed instruments. Snake charmers sit cross-legged with cobras coiled in baskets. Acrobats flip and tumble while people toss coins. Food stalls fill the air with smoke and the smell of grilled meat. Rows of carts serve tagine, couscous, grilled lamb, fresh orange juice squeezed while you wait. You pick a stall, sit on a bench, and eat surrounded by strangers. The energy here is overwhelming. It's loud, crowded, relentless. But there's a particular energy here that's rare to find anywhere else. This square has been the center of Marrakesh for nearly 1,000 years. Thousands of traders, storytellers, and performers have passed through. UNESCO added the square to its cultural heritage list, not for buildings, but for what happens in the space. The square only exists because of the people who fill it. By midnight, the crowds thin, vendors pack up, the noise fades, but by sunrise, it all starts again. A few blocks from the Medina's chaos sits a different world entirely. Jardin Majorelle is an oasis in the middle of the city, a garden designed by French painter Jacques Majorelle in the 1920s. He spent decades building it, collecting plants from across the world and arranging them around pools and pathways. The garden is small, just 2.5 acres, but every corner feels deliberate. Bamboo groves rise overhead, their stalks creaking in the breeze. Cacti from the Americas line the paths, some tall and thin, others round and covered in spines. Palm trees provide shade. Water trickles through fountains and channels, a constant background sound. But what makes the garden unforgettable is the color. The buildings are painted in a shade of electric blue so vivid, it almost glows. Majorelle called it Majorelle Blue, and it's everywhere: walls, planters, pergolas. Against the green plants, the blue looks incredibly bright. Majorelle worked on the garden until his death in 1962. After that, the garden was abandoned and overgrown. Then, in 1980, fashion designer Yves Saint Laurent and his partner Pierre Berger bought it, restored it, and opened it to the public. Today, it's one of the most visited sites in Marrakesh. Here, you can find quiet in a city where the noise never stops. People walk slowly, sit by the fountains, listen to the birds. For a few minutes, the sounds of the Medina disappear completely. The garden doesn't feel like a typical Moroccan place. It's something else entirely. A pocket of calm created by people who fell in love with the city and wanted to leave something beautiful behind. Marrakech's palaces tell two very different stories. Bahia Palace was built in the late 1800s by Grand Vizier Simusa, expanded later by his son. The name means brilliance, and the palace lives up to it. Rooms open onto courtyards filled with orange trees and fountains. Ceilings are covered in carved cedar painted in gold and deep blues. Floors are laid with zellige tiles in geometric patterns so intricate they look like puzzles. Light filters through carved wooden screens, casting shadows that shift throughout the day. Every room feels like a work of art, designed to impress visitors and display wealth. The palace served as the vizier's residence and a place to conduct business and receive important guests. Walk through, and you can almost hear the echo of footsteps from a century ago. A few streets away sits El Badi Palace, or what's left of it. Built by Sultan Ahmad al-Mansur in the late 1500s to celebrate a military victory, it was once one of the most magnificent palaces in the world. Massive courtyards, elaborate pavilions, walls decorated with gold and precious stones. But it didn't last. A sultan who came later dismantled the palace and used the materials for his own construction projects. What remains now are ruins, towering walls, empty pools, nests built by storks in the corners. The decorations are gone, but you can still feel the scale of what once stood here. Standing in the central courtyard, you can imagine how impressive it must have been. One palace still intact and gorgeous, the other in ruins, but still massive. Both remind you that nothing lasts forever. North of Marrakesh, the land rises sharply into the high Atlas Mountains. The range stretches for over 1,000 miles across Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, but the highest peaks are here, in Morocco. Snow caps the summits most of the year, even while the lowlands bake under the sun. At 13,671 feet, Mount Toubkal is the tallest peak in North Africa. The mountain isn't technically difficult to climb, but the altitude makes it tough. Most people start from the village of Imlil, a small cluster of houses built into the hillside about an hour's drive from Marrakesh. The trail climbs steadily through valleys and over ridges. In summer, the path is dry and dusty. In winter, snow and ice cover the upper sections, and climbers need crampons to reach the summit. The final push takes you above the clouds, and on clear days, the view stretches in every direction. Jagged peaks, deep valleys, and the Sahara shimmering in the distance. But the mountains aren't just about Toubkal. Scattered across the slopes are dozens of Berber villages, some so remote they can only be reached on foot or by mule. These villages have existed for over 8,000 years. Homes are built from stone and mud, blending into the mountainside so well they almost disappear from a distance. Terraced fields cling to the slopes, planted with barley, potatoes, and vegetables that grow in the thin soil. Life here moves at a different pace. Water comes from mountain springs. Bread is baked in clay ovens. In winter, villages can be cut off for weeks when snow blocks the roads. But the people who live here know the mountains better than anyone. They navigate trails without maps, predict weather by watching the clouds, and survive in conditions that would break most outsiders. The hospitality is genuine. Invite yourself into a home, and you'll be offered tea, bread, and a place by the fire. Strangers aren't turned away. That's just how it works. Where the mountains meet the plains, water carves its own path. Ouzoud Falls drops over 300 feet in 3 cascades, the tallest waterfall in North Africa. The falls sit in the Middle Atlas, surrounded by olive groves and cliffs where Barbary macaques live in troops that swing through the trees and beg food from visitors. The water crashes into pools below, throwing up mist that catches the light and forms rainbows on sunny days. A trail winds down to the base, slippery from spray, passing viewpoints where you can stand close enough to feel the force of the water. Farther east, the Tadra Gorge cuts through the mountains like a knife. The canyon walls rise nearly 1,000 feet on either side, so close in places that the sky above looks like a narrow ribbon. The Tadra River flows through the bottom, shallow most of the year, but powerful when snowmelt or rain swells it. Rock climbers come here for the vertical limestone faces. The walls are solid, the routes challenging, and the setting dramatic. Even if you don't climb, walking through the gorge is worth it. The scale is overwhelming, the light shifts constantly, and the temperature drops noticeably once you step into the shadow. The mountains eventually give way to something unexpected. High in the Middle Atlas, at over 5,000 feet, sits Ifrane, a town that looks nothing like Morocco. Built by the French in the 1930s as a ski resort, Ifrane resembles an alpine village. European-style houses with sloped roofs, clean streets, and a town square with a stone lion sculpture that's become a local landmark. In winter, snow blankets the town and the surrounding cedar forests. Ski resorts operate nearby, and people come up from the cities to escape the heat. The forests around Ifrane are home to Barbary macaques, one of the last populations of this endangered primate. The monkeys live in troops among the ancient cedar trees, some of which are over 800 years old. It's a strange contrast. Desert and dunes a few hours south. snow and cedar forests here. Morocco holds more landscapes than most countries twice its size. Fez is a city where time moves differently. Known as Morocco's spiritual and cultural capital, Fez has preserved the rhythm of the Middle Ages with a stubbornness that feels almost defiant. Step through its gates, and you enter a world that hasn't changed much in 800 years. The Medina, Fes El Bali, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site enclosed by thick walls and accessed through monumental gates. The most famous is Bab Bou Jalaud, rebuilt in 1913 but standing on foundations much older. The gate is covered in blue and green tiles, and passing through it feels like crossing a threshold into another century. Inside, the Medina sprawls across nearly 10,000 narrow alleys. No cars can enter, no roads wide enough. Life here moves on foot, by donkey, or on carts pushed by hand. The streets twist and turn without logic, branching off into dead ends or opening suddenly onto hidden squares. Every turn reveals something, a carved wooden door 800 years old. A mosque courtyard where men gather for prayer. A fountain where women fill jugs with water. The Medina isn't a museum. People live here, work here, raise families here. It's a functioning medieval city dropped into the 21st century. The alleys are so narrow that sunlight barely reaches the ground. Buildings lean toward each other overhead, their upper floors almost touching. In some passages, you can stretch out your arms and touch both walls. Getting lost is inevitable. Even locals sometimes take wrong turns, but getting lost is part of the experience. You wander until something catches your attention, follow your nose toward the smell of bread or spices, and eventually find your way out. Or you don't, and you ask for directions. People always help. One of the Medina's most striking sights sits in a courtyard that smells worse than anything you've encountered before. The Chefchaouen tannery has been operating for over 1,000 years, using methods that haven't changed since the Middle Ages. From balconies above, you look down on a grid of stone vats filled with dyes, vibrant reds, yellows, greens, and browns. Workers stand waist-deep in the vats, stomping and turning hides by hand. The smell hits you before you see it. Pigeon droppings, cow urine, and lime are used to soften the leather, and the combination creates a stench that's almost physical. Shopkeepers hand out sprigs of mint to hold under your nose, but it barely helps. The process is brutal and unchanged. Hides arrive from slaughterhouses, get soaked in the lime mixture for days to remove hair and fat, then moved to the dye vats, where they're colored using natural pigments. Workers spend hours in the chemicals, their hands stained permanently from years of labor. It's hard to watch and harder to smell, but it's also completely genuine. This isn't a demonstration for tourists. This is how leather has been made in Fez for centuries, and the workers here are continuing a craft passed down through generations. The leather produced here is sold across Morocco and exported worldwide. Bags, shoes, jackets, all tanned and dyed by hand in these ancient vats. A few streets away sits another piece of Fez's history, quieter but no less significant. The University of Al-Qarawiyyin was founded in 859 by Fatima al-Fihri, a woman who used her inheritance to build a mosque and educational institution. It's recognized by UNESCO and the Guinness World Records as the oldest continuously operating university in the world. For over 1,000 years, scholars have studied here. Theology, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, all taught within its walls. The university produced thinkers who influenced the Islamic world and beyond. Its library holds manuscripts dating back centuries, some of the oldest texts in existence. The complex is still active. Students study in courtyards surrounded by carved plaster and zeliga tiles. Prayer calls echo through the halls 5 times a day. The university functions as it always has, teaching, preserving knowledge, connecting past and present. Visitors can enter parts of the complex, but much of it remains restricted to Muslims. Even from the outside, though, you can feel the weight of what this place represents. A 1,000 years of learning, unbroken, in a city that refuses to let go of its past. Fez doesn't try to be modern. It doesn't need to. It holds on to what it is with both hands, and somehow, that makes it more alive than cities twice its size. Of Morocco's 4 imperial cities, Meknes is the one most people miss, and maybe that's its appeal. Founded in the 10th century, Meknes reached its peak under Sultan Moulay Ismail in the late 1600s. He wanted a capital to rival Versailles, and for a time, he nearly got it. Palaces, gardens, monumental gates, all built to project power across North Africa and beyond. The most impressive piece still standing is Bab Mansour, a gate so large it dwarfs everything around it. The archway rises over 50 feet, decorated with green and white zeligi tiles and columns taken from the Roman ruins at Volubilis. Standing in front of it, you can imagine the processions that once passed through. Soldiers, dignitaries, tribute from distant kingdoms. The gate was completed in 1732, years after the Sultan's death, but it still carries his ambition. It's more than an entrance, it's a statement. Just inside the Medina sits the mausoleum of Moulay Ismail, where the Sultan rests. Non-Muslims can't enter the prayer hall, but they can see into it from the doorway. The interior is stunning: carved plaster, zellige tiles covering the walls, marble floors polished smooth by centuries of footsteps. Light filters through windows high above, and the silence feels heavy. Moulay Ismail ruled for over 50 years, one of the longest reigns in Moroccan history. He expanded the kingdom, built an army of slaves, and constructed monuments meant to last forever. Some did, most didn't. Meknes today is quieter than Fez, less crowded than Marrakesh. The Medina still functions, souks still operate, but there's a calm here that the other imperial cities lack. It's a city that had its moment and then stepped back, content to let history speak for itself. A short drive from Meknes, on a hillside overlooking fertile plains, sit the ruins of Volubilis. This was once a thriving Roman city, one of the empire's most important outposts in North Africa. At its peak in the 2nd and 3rd centuries, Volubilis was home to around 20,000 people. Merchants, soldiers, farmers, all living under Roman rule thousands of miles from Rome itself. The city produced olive oil, wheat, and wine, shipping goods across the Mediterranean. Wealth flowed in, and the city grew. Grand houses were built with intricate mosaic floors depicting gods, animals, and scenes from daily life. Public baths, basilicas, a triumphal arch, all the markers of Roman civilization. Then, the empire collapsed. By the 8th century, most of the population had left. Earthquakes damaged the structures. Stones were taken and reused for other buildings. What remains now are fragments, columns standing alone in fields, walls marking where houses once stood, and mosaics still visible after nearly 2,000 years. Walking through the ruins, you can trace the layout of the city. The main street, Decumanus Maximus, runs east to west, lined with the remains of shops and homes. The basilica sits at one end, its arches still partially intact. The Capitoline Temple overlooks the Forum, though only its foundation remains. The mosaics are what draw most visitors. The House of Orpheus contains a floor showing Orpheus charming animals with his lyre. The House of the Bathing Nymphs features detailed scenes of women at a bathhouse. The colors have faded, but the craftsmanship is still clear. Volubilis became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1997. It's one of the best preserved Roman ruins in North Africa, a reminder that empires rise, dominate, and eventually crumble into the dirt they once ruled. Standing among the ruins with the plains stretching out below, it's easy to forget you're in Morocco. For a moment, you could be anywhere the Romans went. Then, you turn and see the Atlas Mountains in the distance, and the illusion breaks. High in the Rif Mountains, tucked into a valley between two peaks, sits a town painted entirely in blue. Chefchaouen was founded in 1471 as a fortress to defend against Portuguese invasions. Later, it became a refuge for Muslims and Jews fleeing persecution in Spain. They brought with them the tradition of painting homes blue, a practice rooted in Jewish custom that symbolized divinity and heaven. Over time, the color spread. Today, nearly every building in the old Medina is painted in shades of blue: pale sky blue, deep cobalt, turquoise, powder blue. Walls, doors, stairways, even the cobblestones in some alleys carry the color. The effect is surreal. Walking through the Medina feels like moving through a dream where everything has been dipped in the same palette. The blue cools the streets visually, making the town feel calmer than it actually is. In the midday sun, the walls almost glow. No one agrees on why the tradition continues. Some say it keeps mosquitoes away. Others claim it keeps houses cool. Many believe it's simply beautiful, and that's reason enough. Every few years, residents repaint their homes, keeping the blue alive. The town is small, easy to walk end to end in under an hour. The Medina is a maze of narrow streets that climb uphill, twisting between houses stacked on top of each other. Cats are everywhere, lounging on steps, slipping through doorways, wandering the alleys like they own the place. In Islamic tradition, cats are considered clean animals, respected and cared for. In Chefchaouen, they're part of daily life. Fed by locals, tolerated by shopkeepers, they move through the blue streets as silent companions to the town itself. At the edge of town, a trail leads uphill to the Spanish mosque, built in the 1920s but never used. The mosque sits abandoned on a hillside, but the view from there is worth the climb. The entire town spreads below, a cascade of blue rooftops framed by mountains. At sunset, the light turns everything golden for a few minutes before fading. Chefchaouen doesn't have grand monuments or ancient ruins. It's just a small mountain town that decided to paint itself blue and somehow became one of the most photographed places in Morocco. The town lives quietly. Tourists come, take their photos, and leave. Locals go about their day. The blue stays. At the northern tip of Africa, where the Mediterranean meets the Atlantic, sits Tangier. For centuries, this city has been a crossroads. Europe lies just 9 miles across the Strait of Gibraltar, close enough to see Spain shimmering on the horizon on clear days. That proximity has shaped everything about Tangier: its history, its culture, its identity. Empires fought over this port for generations. In the 20th century, it became so strategic that 9 nations governed it together as an international zone. Spies, writers, smugglers, all passed through. The city became famous for intrigue, a place where rules bent and anything seemed possible. That era ended in 1956, when Morocco gained independence, but Tangier still carries traces of it. The architecture mixes Moroccan, Spanish, and French influences. The Medina operates like any other, but step into the Ville Nouvelle, and you could be in southern Europe. The Medina sits on a hill overlooking the port. Its alleys are narrower than Marrakesh, quieter than Fez. Souks sell the usual goods: spices, leather, carpets. But there's less hustle here, less pressure. Shopkeepers sit and wait rather than call out to every passerby. Petit Sacco, a small square in the heart of the Medina, was once a meeting place for writers and spies during the International Zone days. William Burroughs, Paul Bowles, Tennessee Williams, all spent time here. Today, it's just a square with a few cafes where locals drink coffee and watch people pass. Grand Sacco sits at the edge of the Medina, a larger square where the old city meets the new. Vendors sell fruit and bread. Kids run around the fountain. Older men sit on benches, talking or just watching the day go by. It's ordinary life, the kind that doesn't make it into travel guides, but defines a place more than monuments ever could. Tangier is also the birthplace of Ibn Battuta, one of history's greatest travelers. In 1325, he left Tangier on a pilgrimage to Mecca. He didn't return for nearly 30 years, covering over 75,000 miles across Africa, Asia, and Europe. His journeys rivaled Marco Polo's, though fewer people know his name. A small museum near the Medina traces his routes across deserts, oceans, and kingdoms. It's a reminder that Tangier has always been a city of departure, a place people leave to see the world. Today, Tangier is reinventing itself again. The massive Tanger Med port, one of the largest in Africa, handles cargo from across the globe. High-speed trains connect the city to Casablanca in just over 2 hours. New developments line the coastline. But the old Tangier is still there, in the Medina's narrow alleys, in cafes where men play cards and drink mint tea. In the view across the strait, where two continents almost touch but never quite meet. Tangier sits between worlds, just as it always has. On Morocco's Atlantic coast, where the wind never stops, sits Essaouira. The wind defines this place. It arrives from the ocean with enough force to bend trees and send sand across the beach. Kite surfers and windsurfers come here for it, their sails cutting across the water in bright colors. The fishing port sits at the heart of town. Blue boats rock in the harbor, fishermen calling out over the day's catch. The smell of salt and grilled sardines fills the air. For a few coins, you can eat seafood cooked on a grill right in front of you. The Medina, a UNESCO World Heritage Site built in the late 1700s, is compact and calm. No cars allowed, just narrow lanes lined with whitewashed buildings and blue doors. Souks sell the usual goods, but shopkeepers wait rather than push. Hidden courtyards reveal cafes and art galleries. Essaouira carries a musical tradition, Nawa music, born from African, Berber, and Arab influences, fills the streets during the annual festival. Drums and chants create rhythms that feel ancient and hypnotic. Just outside the city, groves of argan trees dot the countryside, and in the branches, goats. The goats climb the trees to eat the fruit, balancing on branches that look too thin to hold them. The argan fruit hangs out of reach for most animals, but goats figured out how to get to it. Locals collect the seeds and press them into argan oil, a product Morocco exports worldwide. The tree-climbing goats have become a tourist attraction, but the practice itself is real, a strange example of adaptation to harsh environments. South of Essaouira, the coast turns dramatic. Lexira Beach was once famous for its natural stone arches carved by wind and waves. One collapsed in 2016. The other still stands, though erosion continues. The beach stretches for miles, red cliffs on one side, the Atlantic on the other. At sunset, the cliffs turn crimson. Further south sits Agadir, rebuilt after an earthquake in 1960 destroyed the city. What stands now is modern, built for tourism. The beach runs for nearly 6 miles, backed by hotels and restaurants. The Atlantic here feels gentler, the water warmer. At the edge of town, the Kasbah of Agadir Ufella sits in ruins on a hilltop. The earthquake left little standing, but the view remains. The bay below, the marina, and the anti-Atlas mountains beyond. As the sun sets, lights spell out God, Country, King across the hillside, visible from across the city. Agadir doesn't pretend to be ancient. It's a beach town, modern and unapologetic. Morocco doesn't fit into categories. It's desert and mountains, ancient cities and modern ports, silence and noise. Three continents left their mark here, and instead of erasing each other, they layered into something entirely its own. The country holds contradictions without apology. Medieval tanneries operate next to art galleries. Goats climb trees, while high-speed trains connect cities in hours. Berber villages cling to mountain slopes, while beach resorts line the coast. Travel here isn't about checking off landmarks. It's about getting lost in a Medina and finding your way out. Drinking tea with strangers who become friends, watching the light change over dunes, or listening to the call to prayer echo through narrow streets. Morocco reveals itself slowly, piece by piece, only to those willing to look past the surface. Some places you visit and leave behind. Morocco stays with you, in the smell of cumin and saffron. In the blue of Chefchaouen or the red of Marrakesh. In the memory of standing in the Sahara under stars so bright they erase the line between earth and sky. The roads here don't end, they just lead somewhere new. And once Morocco lets you in, it never fully lets go.